Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Circle of the World podcast, where we discuss Joe Abercrombie's First Law series. I am one of your hosts, Lord Chamberlain Jeffrey, and here are my co-hosts,
Arch-Elector George.
And Harrison, the Adeptus Historical.
We continue our coverage of Red Country, Joe's third standalone and the next First Law entry. This week, we read through Savages. So, let's get started. As usual, folks, you know the deal, you know the drill. We got to thank you for your support, your continued support, especially for the 10 people that apparently caught an early sneak preview of our previous episode. Thanks, George. And just want to thank, again, thank you for your dedication to our craft, to our shit talkery, to our buffoonery. Really do appreciate it. Thank you so much. We love you guys.
Indeed.
Yes, we also agree. Thank you, Jeffrey, for the
Millionth time of...
Yeah.
At this point, if I don't have something silly to say in the beginning, I just let you do the silliness and just concur.
So for our community interaction segment, we can't really do the memeing every chapter anymore because, as the boys pointed out last time, it's basically done. So
You missed your shot.
yeah, so we're just gonna a call to arms here, folks, where we want you to join the First Law subreddits and the House of the Meme Maker subreddit if you haven't. Which I mean, at this point, isn't that likely because
I feel like it'd be pretty dumb if any of our people were not. already
But
part
if
of
you would like to join,
it. If you're not a part of it, you're an idiot.
But if you would like to join our Discord, join our Discord. Ask for the link, and we shall give it to the yes.
Yeah. Well, also, you know, we're getting to the point now where we have 5 more books left after this one, so we hope to be back on a certain site soon. I think maybe, but we will see how that goes.
Yes.
But we're going to, as we go into the last section of books, which is a tragedy, we're gonna keep House of the Meme Maker is still going to be doing the meming of your chapter for the upcoming book. So, just prepare yourself for that. Reread the newer books and make memes.
Yeah. Yes. Please continue to do all that. Let's grow this community. Joe deserves to be way more popular.
Here in about 10 years, when we get our next series of books, we'll come back.
Or in 10 years when they finally make the film.
Right. Although
Another
James
film.
Cameron talked about he wants to adapt The Devils, which is, that's a big filmmaker right there.
That guy takes like 20 years to make films.
Yeah, we will get one.
Well,
in
he
10
takes
years.
20 years.
I mean, it'll be bomb.
He takes 20 years to make the Avatar films. I think when he starts filming like Aliens, or when he did Aliens and Titanic, and I forget what else he did.
But he was a
That was
young
40
man.
years
back
ago.
then. Yeah.
True. You're right. You're right.
Anyway.
About
Now he just likes hanging around in his submarine, doesn't he?
Listen, here's what James
Jerking off
Cameron's
in
like
that
this.
submarine?
He's like James Cameron is like, hey, I watched a movie, or I have this idea or this concept. Holy shit, this is amazing. I'm obsessed. I have to make a movie about it. But I have to do it right, and no matter how long it takes.
Yeah.
So, right before he perishes, because he says he's going to do the Devils after Avatar. So right before he perishes, we'll get the Devils movie. And I'm sure it'll be great.
Should be great. It should be great. But yes, please continue to grow the community. We love to see it. We'll move on to our next segment, which is our first chapter read-through. And this one is Savages. And we start this one off from the perspective of Pitt, who has just finished a spear. And he's excited to show it off to Werdener, who's walked back into the chamber, wherever they're at in Ashrank. And Pitt thinks it's a good spear because he's going off Shapat's teaching, which we will get into in a second. And when he says he finishes his spear, Werner just says good, but he doesn't even look down, and he looks upset. And Pitt thinks that he did something. He goes, "Oh, what have I done?" And Werner looks down, and he goes, "Who is Lamb?" And Pitt goes, well, Lamb's my father. Was my father, maybe. But then Shia always said he wasn't. not. Maybe neither of them were his father, or maybe both. And then thinking about Shy made him think about, what happened. Gully saying "run, run," while Can't Listen, those dudes came and killed him and everything. And then he goes, "Don't send me back," which I have a lot of thoughts on this, but maybe with him it's a little bit more forgivable because he is younger, so I get whatever. But
Well, I think it's more, Jeffrey. I do think it's more of an issue of him being
stupid.
like over no. That he's feeling overwhelmed with the emotions that he's feeling all at once, of being like that he's he doesn't know what he's supposed to do,
Right.
because he starts thinking about how they're both his father and how he misses Shy still, and then this is his, but that's wrong though, because obviously the brainwashing and how he's not supposed to think that way or think about his own family, so then he feels bad, and then but then Raiden was right there to comfort him, so he's gonna fall back on that. It's just, I appreciate how well he handles that aspect actually a lot.
Okay.
Of a child being confused.
Okay. Well, Werderner's like, "No, don't worry. Only death will do is will part us. Do you understand?" And then Pitt nods his head, but and then we switch over to Werner's perspective, and he apologizes. He goes, "It is a nice spear, very fine spear, and you are a fine son. I gotta handle some stuff though, so can you just play with your sister? Oh, and don't talk to her about what I asked you for no reason." Which is like, okay. And then he walks into the longhouse, it's called, and 6 of the gathering were there, naked. The gathering, I guess, is like the High Council. We could, reliably call them, right?
Or what's left of
Or
them,
what's
apparently.
what's left of them.
Because obviously we know that a good 300, was it, dragon people got sent to fight the Shanko.
Was it 300?
The first, I think it was 300.
Oh, okay, interesting. Adeptus, we're gonna count on you to fact check this.
Yep. He's correct.
Oh, he is correct.
There's not many more left that they have left. Basically, it seems to be that there's about, I did this calculation a while ago, there seems to be about 500 dragon people.
Okay. A lot less after this. Actually, no, not really. Now that I think about it, no. Anyway, he walks in, and Uto singing the lessons of the Maker's father. Almighty Eus. And he goes, "There were outsiders at the Seeking Pool," which is that pool of water that Werner was bathing in, and I guess it's very sacred. I guess the whole mountain's sacred to them, and they're all like, "Oh no!" And Ulstall asked if he's sure. He's like, "Yeah, I spoke to him. Scarlayer." And Scarlayer is like a young hunter, and he's like, "Yeah." And Werner, he says, like, "Take your best hunters and follow them, your best trackers. They were in the ruins on the north side of the valley." And he says that there were an old man and a young woman, but they might not be alone, and take care because they are dangerous. And he thinks back to Lamb's dead smile and his black eyes, and he goes, "Very dangerous." Which I think is like...
I like how we get a lot of people that kind of get an inkling of like something under the surface with Lamb and Logan.
Yeah,
but Werner immediately goes, "Yeah, no, that guy's a psycho."
Well, to be fair, Lamb was trying to intimidate him in that way too. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
But yeah,
that's a sociopath, right?
Yeah, that guy's a psycho.
He's like, "That's their father? Fuck."
I should have just let that bitch
go. Wait, but he has an opportunity here, folks. So, Scarlayer walks out, and we have the rest of the people at the gathering, right? We have Ulstall, we have Uto, we have Herfak. I don't know.
It'll do, yeah.
Whatever. Anyway, so he goes, "How did they come to the sacred ground?" And Werner goes, "Well, they came to the barrows with the 20 outsiders. How they came further, he cannot say." So this makes me think that there probably is some magic, right, with the stairwell or getting up to Ash rank, because he mentioned it to Ro, and also Crying Rock, right? Didn't she kind of mention something like that? And then like they took a different way, a hidden way.
Yes, they basically, they're like, "How the hell did she get up here?" That's what their kind of thought is.
So They go, well, why have they come? What do they want? That's Uto asking. And this motherfucker. Oh, because before that, we got introduced to somebody else named Akarin, who's blind and apparently very like thirsty for violence. And Werdener, to Uto's question, he looks around and he goes, and he thinks to himself that if he tells them that they had, Lamb and Shai had came for the children, they might be like, well, let's like give them these kids at least, these two, right? But Werdener is like, no, I don't want to do that. So he gave them the half truth because he's not supposed to lie, right? He's forbidden to lie. But he can give him a half truth because he's fucking working off loopholes. But the maker has set down no prohibition on offering half the truth. He goes, what all outsiders want? Gold. And Herfack is like, all right, let's just give it to them. We have enough. Shabbat with the B. Like, what? Oh, Joe, you messed.
Are you trying to imply that there's a mistake here, Jeffrey?
Yes. I'm implying a lot right now. And they go, nah, if we just give them gold, they're going to want more. And Akarin says, we must send everyone who can hold a blade. 80 of us are there, fit to go. He's just confirming like who did not travel north to fight the Shanka. And Shabbat's like, yep, 80 swords upon my racks. So, there's the fact that there's so few of them now, but then Ulstal's like, well, soon we'll wake the dragon, soon. And Werder knows like next summer or perhaps the summer after, which makes me think like, are they really that close? It
might have been one of those things. It's been next summer for the last 100 years.
Probably.
Yeah,
and we don't,
or maybe the summer.
And
after.
we don't even know what dragon they're talking about at this point. So they talk about they must drive them out, must kill them all. And then Akarin goes like, what else should we do? Welcome them to our sacred places. and I guess Uto goes, perhaps the time has come to consider it. Were we not all born savage? Did not the maker teach us to first speak peace? Now, we're gonna get into this, I guess, at some point. But it's very interesting that as we read through this chapter, specifically this one, they talk as if the maker and his teachings are very peaceful and loving and all this stuff. Yet Baez is he's a psycho. Isolated himself with his machines and all this stuff. And look, I'll be honest. I mean, the House of the Maker is pretty fucking wild. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Anyway.
Well, I don't know. After Canadius supposedly killed Juvens, or was baited into killing Juvens, or witnessed Baez killing Juvens, or whatever he subscribed to. He's been driven out of the Empire and the Far Country, and it's at the point that Baez is talking about when he says he's locked himself up. That's when he's just in Adua.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe he only really
no, but remember,
understands it from
but Baez also talked about like in the beginning before all that when he went to go study with Canadius for a bit because Juven separated him and Kaulul, that you talk about like how the maker would tend to like isolate himself and just work on his trinkets, the inventions.
Sure.
So, I don't know.
But it doesn't mean that he's always been like that.
Maybe.
There's a good 500 years before.
True.
Well,
maybe.
Yeah, there is. Well, think about this, Jeffrey. The Draken people are in what territory?
The Far Country.
Old Empire territory.
Empire.
There are also who built all three bridges across the Great Aos? Who built the three bridges across the Great Aos?
Right. And we know that Canadius
as a what? As a gift to his brother. He was obviously more socialist.
Did you just call him a socialist?
Socialized.
I didn't hear you say. Damn commies are always on my mind.
Definitely.
Just before you explode there, Jeff.
And I was just thinking about like how in the House of the Maker, it was talked about how Canadians had like a following, right, or groups of people. So
the people that became the Union came out of Canadius setting up at the house there, and they all kind of gathered around it.
Right. Well, the people that lived in Adua, but I'm talking about the people that lived in the House of the Maker specifically. They're probably offshoots or the same branch of the Dragon people.
Well, they descended to, or maybe it was just he's tried to set up something in the old empire, or maybe lots of people saw what he was doing and was like, oh yeah, we should be like that. And who knows whether these the dragon people actually worship real things that Canadius said, or if they were just like somebody made
totally
it up
said
and
this.
they were just like, this is totally what he said.
Yeah, well, right, because like in a lot of societies, if there is a god type figure or somebody like God or whatever, the wise teachings are probably not things that he said. They're things that are just good for everybody. Like, don't be too quick to judge, don't be too quick to anger, that kind of shit. Like every culture says that kind of stuff. Be quiet because it's actually wise for all people. But over time, of course, they're going to be like, that came from the maker. The maker said that, and because it's easier to implement and people believe it because of course he did. If it's good, then it was part of the maker, so I think that like many things that the Canadius did, he's an interesting, right? Because he started off very kind, very giving, very communal. And over time, he became more isolated. We don't know why. We don't know if it's because of the artifacts. We don't know if it's because he discovered something. We don't know if it's just Baez, him becoming more closed off because he knew what Baez was trying to do. If him and Juvens actually had a fight. Who the fuck knows?
We do know that Canadius hid the seed when they hid it after defeating Glustron.
That's true.
Yes, he did.
He did steal it. So maybe he's paranoid because he's like, oh, well, they're going to find out like any minute. They're going to come for me.
Right. Okay, interesting. Okay. Well, so basically, they've eventually overrode Uto and voted her down that they're going to kill them all, right? And Werdener's like, then the gathering has spoken, and they have this unique rule that whoever spoke against the agenda of the day must lead that agenda. So he's like, which
is actually smart. I like that a lot.
It's actually it's a reasonably good idea.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about why it's a good idea.
Well, because that person is going to make sure it's done right, not with fervor, not with passion, but they're going to be like, all right, it's a job, not something that finally I got to do what I wanted to do. Right. They're the ones who are going to
all the reasons why they spoke out about it are going to be the reasons why they do better at it. Because they're like, well, we shouldn't do this because this is going to happen. Well, if you put that person in charge, they can take steps to make sure it doesn't happen.
Yeah. Well, as he says too, when it was like, he's like, you have to do. He's like, she's like, oh, I don't want to do it, and they're like, well, that's the whole point. That's why you're going to be good at doing it.
Mm-hmm. Well,
obviously, none of this works in a modern political context whatsoever. No. But yeah.
So Werdener grabs some dirt from the ground, puts it in a little pouch, the sacred dirt of Ashrank, and he gives it to her since she's going to lead it, and. She doesn't rejoice in it, but whatever. And so the perspective changes over to Shabbat. And he's the one, I guess, he's like the armorer, I guess you could say. And he's the one that's like handing the smith. Yeah. And he's really good at making weapons, apparently. And so he gives them out to the people. And then he does... Again, another part of like the maker's teaching, right? For the maker taught also that each blow struck is its own failure. So are we saying the Canadius built weapons, but it was a pacifist?
I think that's one of those things that we talked about, where like the dragon.
I'm gonna keep bringing it up.
Are fairly peaceful. Yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of things that they say that is like, oh, of course, like, don't strike in anger, that kind of stuff. Like, I mean, he probably didn't say that, but that being said, the maker was all about weapons. He made a fuck ton of weapons, but interestingly, Canadius never used them offensively.
Right.
That we know of, yeah.
That we know of. Now he made obviously the ultimate weapon is the divider. He made the divider. And I think we all know that he didn't use it to kill Juvens. I mean,
he also, he made all sorts of weapons. The maker's weapons are like scattered throughout the world. I mean, fucking Wirren of Bly has one.
Yeah,
maybe he has. Maybe. That's not.
I definitely think it's definitely.
I don't know.
But the thing is too is like the maker made things to make them. We don't really know why he made weapons the way he did.
Well, that's his name, isn't it?
The master maker.
He makes
The
he's
master
the
maker.
maker.
Well, anyway, so he's handing out the weapons. Udo comes last, and he thinks to himself that he still thinks that she should have been the right hand, which I guess is Werderner's position. And he goes, these hard days, soft words, rarely found willing ears, which is nice. And I was like, interesting that I guess there might have been like a voting, like an election.
Yes.
So he gives her.
Well, they definitely seem very like tribal, more of a tribal community, where they actually have meetings and discuss things as like a group rather than one person just going, no, we're going to do this, and that's it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, as we see, Werdener not telling the whole truth and nothing but the truth. This motherfucker, is pushing them to go to war.
Politics.
Yeah.
I do like too how like the wise thing to do that Uto is like, yeah, we shouldn't fight them. Like this is kind of dumb. This is only lead to more violence. It's like, of course,
Yeah.
of course she gets shut down.
Yeah, and she worries though that they lost their way. But go ahead, George.
I feel like it's sort of the same thing because we always hear about Beacon, like right from when we first hear, before we even hear about the Dragon People, actually, we know like, Beacon's been wiped out, and there was like a satanic symbol scribbled on the floor and shit like that. And you can imagine that these guys have had that conversation in the past and been like, and Uto's just there like, no, this is a bad idea. This is just going to draw attention from all over the world. And then we see it happen before it actually, we didn't even see it talked about, but you can imagine it happening.
Right. Well, I mean, it was in that when that other fellowship, they did say it was the Dragon People. They did say it was them that killed all those people in Beacon. And that there's just nobody left. Not a trace of their bodies, right? All that stuff.
All that spooky shit.
Yeah. Shabbat tells, he says out loud that Werdener wants the best for us, but Shabbat is thinking like, maybe I'm just trying to convince myself. And then Uto goes like, that Werdener is full of fire. He burns to wake the dragon to make the world as it was. And that wouldn't be a bad thing, but the world does not go back, she says. She is afraid.
Damn.
And he goes, you never. And she goes, always. Not of our enemies, but of ourselves. So then perspective shifts again, and it's Uto this time. And they left Ashrank behind, but they carried Ashrank with them because all of them have the pouch of dirt around their necks. And they go to the ruins of the Seeking Pool, and Uto asks Scarlayer if they've caught him, and he goes no, and he's like frustrated, and apparently there's like some confusion as to how many there are because there's this one guy named Maslingal, and he goes that the tracks are strange. Sometimes it's the feel of two people trying to seem like a dozen, but sometimes like a dozen trying to seem like two people. Sometimes it's careless. Sometimes it's like they want to be followed. And Scarlayer, he's full of vim and vigor. He's like, they will receive their wish and far more than they wish for.
Crying Rock is I do like too, like how the Dragon People, like it's touched on, like it seems to be like they're at their twilight of their society. Like they're so close to achieving greatness, but like they're getting caught up in violence and they're getting caught up in like no one knows what they're actually supposed to be doing at this point. Not really. Right. They have this dragon thing, but like they're kind of just going through the motions and they're reacting to things rather than planning for things. And like I'd really like that we capture this little microcosm of a slowly failing society that hasn't hit the point that they realize that they're there yet. Udo realizes that. But I think that he does it so well here. In like one chapter, you get the feeling of like these people, like yes, they have these ideas, but they're obviously a little misaligned. They're pointing in the wrong direction.
I feel like failing is the wrong word. It's more like they've been stagnant for so long that they cut that people, younger people especially, are just like, what the fuck are we just doing sitting here?
Right. Yeah. And let's think about
isn't stagnation failure, guys?
Not really. But we should also...
there's a difference between being content and like growing, and I mean this in a societal and in a personal level. Like being content and learning and growing in an emotional, intellectual way is different than being progressively like you just don't do anything. Like, are they actually learning or growing in any way? It doesn't seem like it.
I hear what you're saying, but I mean, I think they're not failing. I think I think stagnant really does apply though, and especially when we think about Baez. He said on more than one occasion that the magic is leaking out of the world slowly, so maybe it's getting harder for them to wake whatever the fuck dragon they're talking about. Anywho, so Uto goes, let's follow, but be careful. And I guess at some point in time, they get to Beacon, right? And they stop to eat near a place where there are no trees, an unsullied snow field of white innocence. But Uto knew what lay beneath, a crust of frozen dirt, then the bodies, the rotting remains of the outsiders who had come to stab at the earth and delve into the streams and cut down the trees and plant their rotting shacks among the barrows of the old and honored dead, using up the world and using up each other and spreading a plague of greed into the sacred places. So,
Yeah, you get the point.
yeah. So this is basically,
and to be fair, this is like, what European settlers did to Native Americans. Like, this is like one for one. One of the big ones is Mount Rushmore, right? Didn't that used to be like a big sacred monument for the Lakota? And then you just went, we're just going to put some faces on it. It's fine.
yeah. Well, so they talk about this. This must be this must be where they bury the bodies of the people from Beacon, right? Which is like right outside of Beacon. And they always fought and they always won, just because they're armed with the Maker's tools and because they are skilled in their I guess their martial capabilities, right? But she thinks about like how people had ever killed did not think the dragon people had ever killed so many to so little purpose as they had here, right? When they killed the people in Beacon. She says that there had been a baby in the miners' camp, but she had died, and 2 boys who were with Ashod now and prospering. And then there had been a girl with curly hair and pleading eyes, just on the cusp of womanhood, and Uto had offered to take her, but she was 13, and even at 10 winters, they were risk. Ahem. And she remembered Werderner's sister, taken from the ghost too old, who could not change and carried a fury of vengeance in her until she had to be cast out. So Uto had cut the girl's throat instead and laid her gently in the pit.
It's pretty standard cult stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And goes to my point.
Just like the Jedi, right? Older than 10, it's too old.
The Jedi want to kill them.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know.
One Jedi did kill them all.
He wasn't a Jedi, you idiot.
Technically, he didn't get cast out of the order because he killed everybody in the order.
Nah.
Right. I'm not even that big of a Star Wars nerd, so I don't know. But yeah. And so then look, this is my problem. Ro is basically 10 years old, and she just capitulates just like that.
No, she does not.
Yes, she does.
Just like that. She ran
away.
She ran away.
She ran away, and then Werderner's like, "Hey, come on, girl, let's just like be friends." And she's like, "You right? Get the fuck out of here." It doesn't make sense to me.
I don't know as well. If she'd have tried to run there, Werderner probably would have killed her.
Yeah, I think so too.
Jesus.
But also, here's my thought.
No, they would cast her out like they did with Crying Rock. He said it. We would not.
No, she's too young.
No,
she's only been there a little while as well. Like, she can reveal their location and like all of their secrets.
I don't know.
All right, here's my thought.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my thought on that. One, the fact that they took Crying Rock in and broke the societal norms, it's like the Jedi. If their order is failing because they've lost the point of what they're trying to do. I like that. And
which
Rock
in and of itself is based on many religious orders
yes.
all over the world. That's just how things go. You get young kids that don't have anywhere else to go, and you just teach them and mold them into what you want them to
do.
It's interesting though, they wouldn't have been able to do what they could do here soon without Crying Rock, right? And so Crying Rock is the result of she's a failed person of that society, and she's the one who brings it
crushing down
destruction.
Yeah.
But the other thing I was going to say too, when it comes to Ro, is that Ro is interesting because we have her thoughts, and she's not straight up manipulated. I think the whole point with her is that she basically realizes and chooses that she makes a decision right then and there. In that last time we saw her, do I really want to go through the hardship and go through all this pain and struggle, and go maybe hope that she'll find me, even though no one ever does, or do I just go ahead and relinquish control and choose to be happy where I'm at? She actively makes the choice. She doesn't get yes, she's manipulated to a degree, but she doesn't like she's not, oh, I'm just so confused. I guess I'll be a dragon person now. She's like, all right, I'll be a dragon person because this is I have to pick one. I can't be one or the other. I can't be both at the same time. So I'm gonna pick one. And once she picks one, she commits to it. That's why I think it's okay. Because Pitt is different. Pitt has a different mindset. Pitt is younger. He's more confused, and that's also the reason why he's able to, he recovers better.
Yeah, I mean, a 5-year-old kid is gonna go, yeah, this is my new reality now. I've just got to accept it.
Whereas Ro is like, she's like, okay, I'm now a dragon person, and then whenever shit goes down, she's like, what the fuck? I picked. I chose. I can't go back now.
Yeah. Well, all right. Well, they get
defending cults in any way, shape,
way
or
to go,
form.
Harrison. Way to go. So then they get to the outside of Beacon, and they're scoping the place out. And they're like, okay, it looks correct. Some the shapes of wagons, one very large, almost like a house on wheels. So Uto knows that that's a wagon. What she might have a few horses huddled at a rail, which she might have expected for 20 men, except for, and I guess with the twilight, she saw some faint other tracks that are filled with fresh snow, so they were no more than dimples. But once she saw one set, then she realized the ground is crawling with them, crisscrossing the valley and everything. She goes, "Oh, wait a minute, this is not. There's like a lot of people here." She's like, "Wait a minute, something's wrong." And she feels that Scarlayer moves, and she looked around to see him slipping through the brushes without waiting for her orders, and she's like, wait. And he goes, the gathering had made a decision. And she's like, they decided, I lead, I say wait, and he just kind of like and he turns and she lunges for him, but he's able to brush her aside. And we switch to his perspective, and he thinks to himself, perhaps she might have been something in her day, but her day was long past, and today was his day. And he's bounding down the slope, swift and silent, scarcely leaving marks in the snow. And he gets to the corner. He's going to prove it to everybody here that he's going to be the new badass hunter that they should praise, I guess, because youth.
Yeah, this guy, I find it so funny because this guy could be like a protagonist in another book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This
guy that grew up in a cult, and he's got this fire and passion in him, and he's gonna make things right.
Yeah, but he's a bit of an idiot because he gets to like a hut and he looks around, right, and he sees like some new trails of hoof prints and many older tracks. And he goes, Maker's breath, but they were careless and filthy, these outsiders, leaving dung scattered everywhere. So much dung for so few beasts. Buddy, that should be a sign. And he's like,
yeah, it's funny that, because they're so brainwashed that, anything that's out of place just must be because they're idiots and not because there's some reason for it.
Right. Calls them.
That is part of the downfall.
Yeah, and he calls them savages to himself. And Udo gets up to him. She's breathing hard because she was chasing after this guy. And she's like, you fool, wait. But he, is like, fuck that, I'm running. And so he's running, running out into the camp. And Uto's, beckoning, and the others are following. And they're all spreading out through the camp. And, he's thinking, like, they're going to make the outsiders pay. And Udo's like, this isn't a game. But he's just still like excited, and he's rushing on towards the iron-bound door of the largest building. And then that door opens, and Scarlayer is frozen for a moment in the lamplight, and we hear a morning from a wispy-haired old man leaned against a frame in a bed-rattled fur with a gilded breastplate spotted with rust showing beneath. Had a sword at his side, but in his hand, only a bottle. And he raises it to them, and he's like, welcome to Beacon! And Scarlayer lifts his blade and is about to do like a warrior's cry. And then there's a flash at the top of the tower, a pop in his ears, and he's shoved hard in the chest and found himself on his back. And he can only like look up and stare into oily smoke. and he's like, "What the fuck?" And he looks around, and Isarult, who had helped with cooking at the slab and smiled at him once, twice, had been ripped apart. He could tell her corpse by the shield on her arm, but her head was gone, and the other arm and one leg, so that it hardly looked like it could have ever been a person, but just lumps of stuff. And the snow was just spattered, scattered with blood and hair and splinters of wood and metal. Other friends and lovers and rivals flung about and torn and smoldering. Yikes. Tofric.
Yeah. Obviously, this is shit. Is he? What's his fucking rank? Pike.
Superior.
Superior. Yes, it's a superior Pike's gift.
That's right.
Because obviously they've been working on some gunpowder stuff for the last little while. The Union has, and so we have a reasonably good cannon here.
Yeah, and so they have
it's scattershot.
Yeah, so they have cannons in the wagon. So my only confusion, right, is that Scarlayer runs to a building, ironbound door, and well, it has to be a wagon that he runs up to. Then
I think that's it. I think they've either moved because nothing in Beacon is going to have an ironbound door
right,
at this point.
Because it's all shacks, right? But here's the thing: Udo saw the wagon and recognized it as a wagon.
But Uto calls it a wagon, maybe a building on wheels.
It looked like a house.
But Uto, yeah. But Uto's older and has probably been out and seen more things than
That's true.
Scarlayer.
Okay,
is it Scarlayer?
Scarlayer, yeah.
Scarlayer.
Scarlayer.
So yeah, it makes sense that Uto would see it and not see the wheels and just go, "Oh yeah, that's just a building."
So, anyway, yeah, shit went down, and he's thinking. He looks at Tofric, who was the best skinner anywhere, staggered, a dozen wounds in his, and he had one right under his eye, and he just stared and just like collapsed. Uto lay next to Scarlayer, and he lifts up her head a little bit, but she's twitching, shuddering, teeth rattling, red foam on her lips. And she tried to pass the pouch of the sacred dirt, but it was ripped open, and the sacred dust of Ashrake spilled across the bloody snow. And he sees friends running down the street to their aid. Kanto in the lead. How lucky he was to have such friends. And then as they passed one of the barrows, smoke burst from its mouth, and Kanto was flung away and over the roof. So not only is the wagon shooting cannons, they've been been basically setting off bombs and explosive powder. And and setting up traps. And then Scarlayer sees shutters open, arrows flitting through the streets, just taking out these people, man. And he struggles to his feet, and the old man's, we know is Casca, is in the doorway still pointing with the bottle, saying something. And Scarlayer tried to raise his sword, but he realized his hand was empty. And there was an arrow in his leg. And he's like, what the fuck? And it didn't hurt, but it hit him like a shock of cold water that he might fail and that he might die. And then suddenly there was a fear upon him like a weight, which is it's got to be such a terrifying feeling. And so he goes for the nearest wall. He climbs up over it, I guess, and he's going up the slope. He's like, fuck this. And he looks back, and he sees the camp is shrouded in smoke, and shapes are coming from the whirling fog like great devils. Men and horses fused into one awful whole. And he had heard tales of this obscene union and laughed at it, but now he saw them and was horrified. So he had never seen, or he heard about the concept of cavalry, right? But never seen it because they always fought on foot.
They definitely don't have a concept of how to use cavalry like that. I mean, the regular ghosts barely do.
Right.
Because they just kind of ride up and jump off.
Yeah. And he sees that one horseman is following the trail blood that Scarlayer is leaving behind as he's running. And he's chasing after Scarlayer. And Scarlayer's like, oh, fuck. And he should have turned and shown his defiance, proud hunter, the dragon people he was. But where had his courage gone? Once there had been no end to it. Now there was only the need to run, as desperate as a drowning man's need to breathe. And he did not hear the rider behind him, but he felt the jarring blow across his back, and the snow cold on his face as he fell. And he fought to get up, but he could get no further than his hands and knees, trembling with that much effort. His back would not straighten, agony all burning, and he whimpered and raged and was helpless, his tears melting tiny holes in the snow beneath his face, and someone seized him by the hair. So we switch over to Brachio's perspective, and Brachio's the guy that must have cut his throat and put his knee in the lad's back, forced him down, and pulled a knife out and basically cut his ears off. I don't even know if he cut his throat.
Oh, Brachio.
Yeah, I don't know if he cut his throat, but at the very least he did cut his ears off. It's like Jesus, and he I guess
he's gonna send that back to his wife again.
No, yeah, he's gonna give it. He's collecting ears to give back to his daughters to be like, hey, look at this, I got ears of the ghost. It was just like an odd way to. I guess maybe back then it would have been like a thing, like check out these.
I think he's just out of touch, bro.
I think a lot of what Joe is writing based on that kind of concept is that, like in the 18th century and the 19th century, it was very, very popular to like exaggerate how savage everything was in the past to show like, oh, how advanced we are now. So maybe like in the Union, people have all of these tales about like people collecting necklaces of ears and shit, but it wasn't really the way it went down, and it was more ritualistic.
Mm.
And that even goes back to like the 15th century. There's all sorts of interesting conversations to be had about that.
Yeah. Well, Brachio makes his way back while he's thinking about his kids and everything. He sees Swarbrick, and Swarbrick is not looking happy. He's like horrified. And Brachio's like, cheer up, we won, didn't we? And then we switch over to Swarbrick's perspective, and he's like, yeah, I don't know. And he's looking.
Yeah. I fucking love Swarbrick in this book. We come to hate him later. But
in this book, he's great.
He's like the kid in Come and See. He's just like, he's seen so many things that somebody that innocent should just not see.
No wonder he's fucked up later.
Yeah, you're right. You're probably right. And you know what's funny? He has one of the most hilarious bits about Casca. He goes, Casca took another deep swallow from his bottle. If Swarbrick had read in print the quantity of spirits the old man was currently drinking each day, he would have cursed it for an outrageous lie. Which is hilarious. And he's looking at Casca, and Casca is just kind of looking at the dragon people, and he's like, I have fought Northmen, Imperials, Union men, Gurkish, every variety of Styrian, and plenty more whose origin I never got to the bottom of. And I am forced to consider the dragon person vastly overrated as an opponent. You may quote me on that.
You have to think about this too, that the dragon people, they may be brave and they're, they've got the coordination and stuff, of course, but like they haven't fought a fighting force in how long?
Right.
Probably ever, to be honest. So they've only
this
been
company
with,
particularly not. No, never.
Yeah. I mean, they mostly fought some brigand kind of raider type people, at most, and not an actual fighting force. So they're completely unequipped for this kind of warfare, at least on this scale.
It's definitely one-sided as well because they have them in an ambush.
Yes, and they have them in an ambush. And
I reckon, if the 80 dragon people would have ambushed the company when they were marching, I think the dragon people would have won.
Yeah, that's very possible. Maybe. Well, maybe.
Yeah, and so Casca, he looks at Swarbrick is not. He's like trying to swallow nausea, right? And Casca's just going off, and he's like, courage can be often be made to work against a man in a carefully laid ambush. Bravery, as Verturio had once said it, is the dead man's virtue. And he looks at Swarbrick and goes, you are not comfortable. I forget sometimes that not everyone is used to these kind of scenes. But you came to witness battle, didn't you? It's not always glorious. And Swarbrick's like, yes, of course. And he goes, he had reached the point of agreeing with Casca on instinct, however foul, ridiculous, or outrageous his utterances. He wondered if he had ever come close to hating anyone as much as he did the old mercenary, or relying on anyone so totally for everything. No doubt the two were not unrelated. And he's like, yes, of course, only winners, yes. Yeah, right.
I mean that's absolutely right as well. You know, if you've got a boss who is, you know, paying you well, but it's just an absolute piece of shit, you've just got to kind of stand there and go, yeah,
And yeah,
thumbs up. Yeah, good
and
job.
in here we have a passage that a lot of people really like out of Red Country, and I'll read it verbatim. You know, Swarbrick had come to see the face of heroism, and instead he had seen evil. Seen it, spoken with it, been pressed up against it. Evil turned out not to be a grand thing, not sneering emperors with world conquering designs, not cackling demons plotting in the darkness beyond the world. It was small men with their small acts and their small reasons. It was selfishness and carelessness and waste. It was bad luck, incompetence, and stupidity. It was violence divorced from conscience or consequence. It was high ideals, even, and low methods. So, pretty
It's good. It's
Good
good.
one.
It's good soliloquy.
I like that quote too. References that Joe has to little men doing little like things.
Yeah.
Like basically that everything is insignificant,
Mhm.
and both by comparison and just in the general grand scheme of things, like there's just it's not nothing's ever what it's what it's perceived as.
I think that's what I like the most about Joe's work is that, you know, there are people in history that have changed history by themselves, but most of the time, the great sweep of things, it's the little people that put the work in, and good or bad, you know, that's the way things are.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Inquisitor Lorson, we see him moving amongst the bodies and rolling up their sleeves, and he's like, "I see no sign of rebels, only these savages." And Casca's like, they're in the mountains. They're in the mountains. Our Cantless told us, in their so-called sacred places in Ashrank, we will begin the pursuit right away." And Sweet, he nods. He's like, "Yeah, because Crying Rock and the rest are waiting for us." And it's like, it would be rude to delay, particularly with the enemy so denuded. How many did we kill, Friendly? Friendly's like, I don't know. So, with all the pieces, I don't know which goes with which. And so he's like, well,
Practical as ever.
huh?
As practical as ever.
Yeah. And so Casca gets into a little bit about like how, you know, the wagon works great, till Superior Pike. I mean, it's not as great as like when I blew up the mine beneath Fonz's Armo, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, whatever. But he's like, it's, you know, good job all around. And Temple is near there. And Temple says, so this is what success looks like. I have often wondered. And Swarbrick connects with Temple. He goes, the lawyer saw it, the way his jaw set tight and his mouth is twisted. He goes, it was some small comfort to know there was one man in this gang who, in better company, might have approached decency, but he was just as helpless as Swarbrick. And Casca is yelling around for Dimbick, you know, to go lead off and root out any of the creatures left in the wood. Brachio, get your men ready to ride. Sweet will show us the way. Yada, yada. He goes, there's gold to be had, boys, and no time to waste. And he goes, and rebels too, of course. Which
I do like the fact that people have changed their opinion on Temple. Like Swarbrick in his first chapter is like, oh, this is the worst person in the company. He's a slimy worm, and he talks his way out of everything. And now Swarbrick looks at him and goes, "Oh, actually,
he's pretty decent."
Yeah, there's a reason. There's a reason why he was that way.
Yeah, yeah. And Casca wants Temple with him so they can be certain on the terms of the contract terms about plunder. But he does tell Swarbrick to, man, it might be better if you just hang back. If you don't have the stomach for this, well, then I don't know what you're gonna like when we get up there. Swarbrick's like, yeah, of course, yeah. And he thinks about his past when he was in Adwa, right, with the printing press and everything. How he was so excited to venture out into this kind of setting and write about it and write fantastic words. Hopefully, right? He couldn't think. He doesn't know if he could ever write again. Truly, he's so confused and confounded, right, by this experience so far. And then Temple tells him, you know, take care of yourself, author. And Swarbrick goes, you too, lawyer, and pats him on the leg as he passes. And that's the end of that chapter. Boys, how do you rate it?
You know, I'm a big fan of the Little People chapters, and this one is it kind of starts out because we've had Pitt and Rose perspectives before, to then suddenly shift into that being the dragon people's perspective as well. I think that's an interesting way of doing that. I think that's just for that, the way that shifts to the dragon people's perspective rather than starting with where to know or something like that. It just gives massive points to this. Not to mention the absolutely fantastic relationships that are built up between the dragon people. We get a ton of history, a ton of world building. I don't know. I reckon I'm going to give this one an 8.
Yeah. I was going to give it the same. Harrison?
Me
yeah?
too.
Trifecta?
Trifecta. I mean, it's done really well. I mean, like you said, some action. You get some, the classic Joe like terror of battlefield stuff. You get some comedy. You get the overall feeling. Like you just get such a good grasp of this society, in like such a short time period, and so it's just done really well, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll give it an 8. I mean, like basically what George and Harrison said, a lot of historical background, especially with the Maker, but the dragon people. We see, the relationships between each and every one of them. And, they're not some kind of mystical group of people. They're people in a different setting, right? Maybe there's magic involved with them. Maybe not. We don't know. But they're people with their own wants and desires and hopes and dreams. And we see Uto trying her very best. And this did not go the way it should have went, and there's a lot of carnage, right? Especially, maybe Scarlayer messed it up for all of them, or maybe it would have happened anyway. But it was rough, and then obviously we have Storbreck's perspective on this, which really adds a layer of somberness, I guess we could call it, right? To this whole interaction.
Yeah.
Plus, the whole bit with the candle was fucking cool as
shit. George likes things that go boom.
It's interesting that we get like a perspective of somebody that is on the receiving end of that for once.
Yeah.
And they don't understand what it is. Just like there was a flash and then everybody was gone. It was bad. It was a bad time.
It was a bad time. 1 out of 10 would not recommend. Whoever is making it out of there, if there is anybody making it out of there, at least for towards dragon people.
Yeah, Scarlayer is definitely not.
No, he's done. He dead. He dead. So with that chapter read through done, we'll move on to our last 2 segments, and our next one, which is our best meme of the week. Georgie boy, that's you. Take it away.
This is a homegrown meme here. We've got one that came right from the Circle of the World Discord.
It's fresh.
Which, if you haven't joined and you want to, just come and join. Well, it's not quite fresh; it's 2 weeks old, which is breaking our rule of meme of the week. But unfortunately, the only meme that got posted on House of the Meme Maker in this last week was one from next episode or the episode after. At this point. So we're going to do this one instead. It's Taco Tuesdays, and it says it's a small circle of the world, and it's 3 Eskimos, and it's Prince Ario, Shivers, and Lamb. And it's just if you know, you know.
Oh, that's hilarious. We're not slut shaming, by the way. We appreciate.
Yeah, no, yeah.
We
Absolutely.
appreciate the willingness to spread the goods.
That's terrible.
Sorry. I might cut that out. Hold on. We appreciate her willingness to spread the love. So then we'll move on to our final segment, which is our character spot. And really, we're here to highlight the dragon people. Because specifically, obviously, Uto and Scarlayer and everybody else that died in this bitch, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's Uto. I nominated Uto early when we were talking about it just because she's so, like, of course she dies, right? But she's like this character who is wise and patient and a team player, and also obviously she leads the expedition and she's led other parties before, and she's a military leader to a degree too. Like, she's got it all. You know, they're right. She should have been second. Maybe none of this would have happened. maybe the kids wouldn't have been stolen. Maybe she would have realized that they need to do something else because she's actually thinking outside the box rather than trying to just fall in line with tradition like Werdenor is. And it's just a shame. I mean, Uto is like one of those few people that could actually change society if she was given the right opportunity, I think. And she wasn't. And that's the tragedy that Joe does all the time. But this time,
all the time.
you know, this tragedy, honestly, on a smaller scale with less time to know her, is the equivalent for the Dragon people of Orso and the Union.
It's actually true. They've probably been around as long as the Union.
Probably even before. Probably.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Insane.
Yeah, I mean,
this is their Orso.
It's so interesting as well because obviously, you know, the Shanka rising up and moving down through the world like they do. And it's interesting that this part of the world might be overrun with Shanka if it wasn't for the Dragon people.
Maybe. And you know what's crazy too when we think about it, right? The Dragon people are people that follow the Maker's teachings. But we also know that the Maker made the Shanka.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
But I think do they acknowledge that at any point? Or it's
I don't know, but
maybe that's part of their existential crisis. I mean, maybe that's who the dragon is meant to fight.
Maybe. What? Now, hear me out. Now, we know the Canadius is very skilled, and he's an artiste. He's an artisan, right? What if he made...
He's an auteur.
But what if he made the Shanka by accident? What if he was just throwing some clay?
I feel like it was definitely, they said that the Shanka were made to fight Glustrod's armies, right?
No, they were made to fight Baez.
No.
And
were
the Magi. They were made to fight the
I don't think that's ever
confirmed.
Cool. Really.
No, Baez says it. He says he made the Shanka in order to combat the Magi.
Adeptus, I think you're wrong on that. I love you, but I think you're wrong on that.
But I think, well, to be fair, I think Harrison might be literally right, like what it says in the text. But it's a possibility that Baez is either making that up, exaggerating, or something else. Because it doesn't make sense that Canadius would be there to fight Glustrode and not make
According
like
to
that.
Baez, the Shanka were created by the Master Maker, who made them with clay, metal, and leftover flesh. They were bred to help the Maker in his war against his brother, and later the Order of the Magi. Harrison is correct. Interesting.
Well, it says his brother, but that could be Glustrode or Juvens.
Juvens. No, it says Juvens. Against his brother Juvens, which is crazy. So, but there wasn't an actual war against Juvens yet, though, right? There was no war until...
Well, that we know of. We don't really know.
Harrison, I said you were right. Did you take off your headset?
Of course I did, because I had to go find it. You didn't trust me.
I was looking too. So it says... I confirmed it for you. So it says he created them to fight against the war.
To fight in his war against us, against the Magi, against his brother Juvens, he bred the first Shanka here and let them loose upon the world.
So what? But he wasn't at war with Juvens yet, though.
No, but
I also think that maybe that is like a lesser version, like the magic leaks from the world. Maybe the Shanka were the best that he could do at that time, whereas earlier in the war against Glustrod, he made people like Fenris the Feared.
No, Glustrod made Fenris the Feared.
Yeah,
made the weapons at least that Fenris the Feared wield or used to wield, if my theory is correct.
Well, Canadius made a fuck ton of weapons for the war against Glustrod. That's probably why there's so many weapons out there, right? Because they were magical and they were effective, and they all fought against Glustrod together, all three of the brothers. Then shit went down, and then the reason he says to fight against the war against Juvens because this is Baez talking, and remember, Canadius. The story is supposed to be Juvens found out that Canadius was doing things with devil shit. Maybe Juvens did find out that he had the seed. Maybe, Baez implied it, or maybe that Juvens just found out on his own because he was the goat. Juvens confronted him, and the Canadius killed him. And so the people under Juvens, the Magi, and presumably the Old Empire, declared war on Canadius himself to try to get rid of him.
So you're falling for
so the war against Juvens is a war against.
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
For a second, I was like, "Are you falling for the Baez propaganda?" But now I understand what you mean. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, one thing I do like about the Dragon people too is the variety of personas and perspectives. Right? We have the brash young warrior. We have the the leader, a potential leader who probably should be the leader, who's worried about their place in the future. We have Weirdener, who is basically trying to get things done at all costs. We have the psycho, bloodthirsty old man who can't fucking get it up. We have, we have a lot of people that are like, introspective, and I like their characters, and we don't get a lot of time with them though.
No, we don't. I mean, Weirdener is...
That is definitely the point, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, Joe is trying to make a point that, these people existed for a very small amount of time, and now they're dead.
You're going to like them, but they're going to be dead.
I do find it interesting, though, that despite that, we're talking about maybe this not being real technology or anything, they live in a place that has solid bronze floors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That immediately you're like, oh yeah, that requires a level of technology that is higher than what they have right now.
So actually,
clearly there's
not.
something there.
No, it's not. Remember, technology, you know about this, George. I'll just remind you that the technology is not linear, right? So they are not advanced in like weapons other than like crafting swords and spears and shit, whatever. But they, like, architecturally, they're building a fucking dragon. They've been working on this dragon for 500 years. And
but we don't even know what this dragon is yet. Well, or even if it would work if they finish.
We don't know, but we do know that it's fucking breathing. So to some degree, it is functioning with its full purposes. Here's my idea. I think the dragon, Canadius' original thought was, I'm going to make this dragon as the ultimate weapon, the divider is really good at killing. It can kill like one thing, like instantaneously, right? If this dragon could fly and breathe fire or breathe whatever the shit and could rain full on destruction, that's actually a more potent weapon. Why did he do it? Well, because he wanted to have a backup plan just in case. Because Canadius is paranoid as fuck. But the thing is only Canadius could probably actually give it life because he's actually the only one with that magical power. He could teach the methods, and Baez can copy the maker's work, but Baez uses high art, which allows him to.
I don't know if it is necessarily like a genetic thing,
I don't mean genetic. I don't mean.
I say genetic in the old sense that it must be passed down or it must be passed to people, like even if it's intentional or not. I mean that. We know that Logan can contact the spirits, and we know that Logan definitely didn't talk to Bedesh at any point.
No, well, there's different things, right? I mean, I'm saying that I'm saying Canadius is the one who could actually breathe life into him is because Canadius has devil blood. That's what I'm saying, because he's attuned to the other side, and he's the one who originally did it. The Juvens could teach high art, but only to certain individuals, obviously, because otherwise he would have done it all the way across the board. Not everybody can become eaters. There are rules. We just don't know the rule parameters. Canadius can teach his making to anybody, but obviously they're not the same. Level. They can't do the same shit.
Right.
Well, I don't know about that again. Because obviously, high art is about like esoteric knowledge. It's about like knowing things that people not necessarily shouldn't know about, but don't necessarily need to know about in order to manipulate things, right? But I think that the maker's art is more just engineering. It's just, I know how these tolerances work, and I know how this material works, and knowing things through science then gives you powers over it. Whereas high art is more like esotericism. It's more like, I know how this specific thing works.
I would agree with you.
So that I can...
George, I agree with you. Like I do think like you can do practices, and like obviously Baez is able to use that kind of magic because he uses it to make the 11 wards reverse to contain the seed and all that shit, right? He does stuff like that. But there's a key difference, and because they actually say it, Baez says that in order to use magic, you have to touch the other side.
Right.
Right? That's the case for all of them. Period. You have to touch the other side and use magic. He says, thus the three schools of magic were born.
But my point is that Canadius, like when he does something, he learns about it and then can use that knowledge to make things.
Right.
So, like, the knowledge of making things isn't necessarily touching the other side once you've already done it. So he only does, like, things every now and again. It's like, okay, well, and now I understand how that works and how to replicate it in the real world. Whereas Baez can't do that.
No, right. Because, well, here's the thing. We're talking...
Well, he tries to with his cannons, because we know Baez
has explosions.
But George, what about the House of the Maker? What about Ashrank itself?
But that's what I mean. Like maybe that was just that was like his big thing that he was just like, I'm just going to make this refuge for myself, and that took all of my energy. But now I understand how all the structural mechanics because I knew how to make it in that moment.
I think I might be leaning towards more agreeing with Harrison here because think about like the stuff that he's made, like all his swords, still sharp as shit, unbending, don't break.
Yeah, but that could literally just be like a titanium carbide or something. You know, some really advanced alloy.
You're telling me that somebody else can make
rust.
the
Things
divider?
Rust. Look at the divider. Look at the
titanium carbide does not rust.
Yeah, no, I think with him being a devil, I think anything made by Canadius, actually made by him by his hand, is infused with magic. I think.
Well, I agree. I don't think it's crazy, George. I think that you're right. But like you even said about how the quality of the weapons that the dragon people are making are not the same quality.
But they're still better than
That's what I mean. That's what I mean about Canadius being more about how to apply knowledge directly rather than Bias, who is just like, no, just keep it for yourself. I need to know why this herb does this one thing, and I'm not going to tell you why I need to know that.
Yeah. Well, I think that in practice you are correct, but I think whenever it comes, like for example, the dragon people could make the 3 bridges that cross the Eos because they have the engineering architectural knowledge to do so.
Yeah.
But the bridge
would not enough time.
The bridge would not given enough time, but the bridge would not last forever. Also, Canadius probably didn't build the bridge himself to a degree. He was a part of it. Maybe he did. Maybe he just was like, oh.
Yeah, we don't know if Canadius is like Magneto or something. Right. Just like
could be.
Form. We don't know. We literally have no idea.
I mean, we know that Juvens could fucking blow apart mountains easily,
I want Joe to give
so
us a prequel into like the war. Or like with Bluestraw.
Oh, that would be so good.
Also, I have a thought too. Now, if Canadius did employ people to build his things around the world, maybe those are the dragon people. Maybe once the war started, he sequestered them because they were his most loyal followers.
That's exactly what I'm thinking. I think the dragon people started as a work crew.
Yeah.
And then they were left all the way out in the middle of nowhere, and then the old empire collapsed, and their god disappeared, and they were just like, shit, we've got to replace it with something else. Maybe all of these work guidelines that we have here, maybe that's the truth.
Yeah, maybe you're partially right. They were stuck in the mountain working on the dragon to create a society.
Maybe all these HR rules are a new Bible.
Yeah, exactly. After 2 or 3 generations, you've got just this group of people that are descended from old workers. And like, yes, it says here that we must take in new people from the outside. What does that mean?
Now, hang on. I also have. I just thought about this. Canadius maybe Canadius made it to where the Ash rank you can't have children in Ash rank. Maybe that's Canadius.
I think that's possibly also the radioactive thing that we know that comes from magic in the first law.
Right.
Maybe maybe this is like an opening into the other side.
Maybe that's why it's secret.
Because normally highly volcanic regions don't necessarily make you infertile.
Right.
So I'm thinking maybe that's more magical than
what
geographical.
Also, the mountain has never erupted.
What if because like Ash rank, as we'll see, there's like it's volcanic. There's like a crack and everything.
It's Yellowstone.
Yeah. What if work with me here? What if Ash rank is the place where the world opened up first when demons came through, the devil bloods, and now that's where they closed it.
I'm pretty sure that's Ulcus, because Ulcus is where Glustrad was when he did all the bad stuff.
Before the world broke up.
When Eus sealed the crack.
Yeah, maybe. That's a good point.
Look at me.
But he said, but my only argument is the fact that he said that the world, in the old time, the world was one, both the other side and our side. We don't know beyond that. So they were, but whenever he destroyed, he put up the walls between the 2 worlds, right?
Maybe
so, I don't know. Maybe
that's the portal, or like the sealed portal. I'm thinking about it because I like your idea, your thought, Georgia, when you said that like akin to the seed, the radioactivity of it makes you infertile, right? But because it's
like a long-term
Right.
low
very
radiation
low
exposure
because it's
would
still
be.
seeping in or seeping out. Maybe that's where the magic is seeping
Yeah.
out of the world, and therefore by proximity.
But it also makes sense that he says that a lot of like the younger children die because maybe it's like a certain genetic thing where some people can adapt to the radiation.
I don't remember hearing that about the children dying.
Well, he said that in this chapter where he said that the baby.
Oh no,
that
but
they
that's
took died.
because Beacon, because it was cold as shit and they killed everybody.
Fair enough. Yeah, that could be
yeah.
that. Yeah,
Because that's the
community.
barrows right there out of Beacon.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely interesting that the dragon people definitely have something more going on that is sadly extinguished, and it'd be very interesting. Well,
Yeah, we'll
talk
talk about it in next chapter because you never know. The dragon people might reconvene and
yeah, they're totally gonna kick their asses and kick them out and be like, no.
Hey guys, I'm just saying, whenever so and so returns, I have a feeling that Deus Ex Dragon, probably not in a good way, because Joe will something will happen with that. Whether it's because of all the magic back in the world, or because the dragon people finally did it, or because
Deus Ex Dragon People is definitely the best fan fiction title ever.
Deus Ex Dragon. That's funny.
They're gonna do some crazy shit. I have a feeling, but I don't want to have my hopes up too high because you know how Joe is. He'll be like, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that. My bad."
I mean, doesn't a couple of characters mention dragon people in Age of
They do?
Madness? So you never know.
I don't
They
remember.
might come back.
Oh wow.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Judge definitely mentions them.
Oh,
Judge does, but Judge is fucking weird. Judge is like
Judge is not
Oh, what
Judge is like the Joker.
not one of my
I can't
favorite
believe
characters.
you just-
Not one of my favorite characters. Goofy. Anyway, but I think that'll be it for our episode. That was a good character spot. I like that one. Good job, boys. That was good. In depth.
well, a lot of speculation and conversation. I like it.
Yeah, I had a lot to say about this
It was
chapter,
good.
so I went
Yeah,
for
I
it.
like it. Good.
Nice.
Good. I like it. That's our show, everyone. We want to thank you all for listening and supporting this podcast. As you know, this is a passion project for the three of us, and your support means oh so much.
Join us next week as we cover the Dragon's Den.
And make sure you follow us on all of our social media or send us an email at circletheworldpodcast@gmail.com.
And please make sure to subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcast from. And please also to make sure to rate and review us. Thank you all again for listening.
Don't worry, we have lost our way.